you like it or not, yes, whether you like it or not, Minthe was in a relationship with Hades before Persephone came along, and Hades cheated on Minthe. So I decided to read Lore Olympus to see if it was as bad as everybody else it's claiming it to be. Now, I haven't watched those YouTube videos talking about Lore Olympus because I don't want anybody else's opinion to cloud my own opinion. So for all I know, those videos could be clickbait. But judging from the thumbnail and the title, it seems like the general consensus is that people don't really like Lore Olympus that much. Plus, some of the comments that I have read online seem like they don't like Lore Olympus that much. So let's discuss Lore Olympus and I'll tell you what I liked and what I didn't like. First, let's start with the art style. Because Lore Olympus is a webtoon or a graphic novel, the art style is one of the first things that you see. And Lore Olympus art style is very attention grabbing, to say the least. When I first saw it, the art style reminded me of the movie Hercules and a little bit of Inside Out. Because in the movie Hercules, we can see that the gods are kind of color-coded, similar to Lore Olympus. And in Inside Out, we can see that the emotions are formed from kind of magical particles, and that's what it looks like in Lore Olympus. It looks like the gods are made from magical particles. They don't look human at all. Something that I want to say about the art style of Lore Olympus is that the color coding was something that I really liked. I found that to be very clever because I liked how each of the characters not only were color coded, but a lot of their personality reflected something about that color. For example, Hades being blue, we see that in a panel somebody calls Hades blue, and that makes sense because he is blue and he has a very blue type of personality. That being said, I noticed that because of the color coding of the characters, it seems like sometimes the artist of Lore Olympus got a little bit lazy and wasn't consistent with the characters. I think this happens because the artist can rely on the pink one with short hair is Persephone, and then you see some panels and Persephone looks like Persephone, but on some other panels she just looks like some pink character. The only thing that lets you know that that character is Persephone, it's the color coding. And this not only happens with Persephone, it happens with all of the characters. So there's some panels where the characters don't really look like themselves at all. So I think I will place color coding into the things that I like about Lore Olympus, but I like the color coding only to a certain extent because, again, like I said, it seems like there's no consistency in the art style itself. Another thing that I noticed is that some of the color choices for the characters seem a little bit off, in my opinion. For example, can somebody tell me why is Minthe, or Minthe, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm gonna say Minthe, why is Minthe red? So for those of you who don't know, Minthe is the plant mint before she was a plant, according to Greek mythology, right? So she was a nymph and then she was transformed into the plant mint. So I don't understand why Minthe is not color mint or some shade of green at least. Like, it doesn't make sense to me that she's red. But I think it would be very cool if Minthe was color mint. It seems like a no-brainer to me. Another example I can think of is Zeus. Why is Zeus not golden color? I get the reference of thunder for him to be purple, like I see it, I get it. But there's a panel where they show humans referring to Hades as dark Zeus. So if Hades, who is color blue, is dark Zeus, you would imagine that Zeus is a very light color. But then we have Zeus being purple, and not only he's purple, but he's a very neon intense purple. So it doesn't make sense that they call Hades dark Zeus. I think if they had made Zeus golden or some yellow type of color, it will make more sense and it will make more contrast when you put Zeus and Hades side by side. There will be a clear difference of Zeus being the light and the golden one, and then Hades being the dark, mysterious one. And another reason why I think Zeus should have been golden or some type of yellow is because in the story, Zeus, it's kind of like the golden golden child. You know, he's the one that rescues his siblings, and he's the one that takes Kronos' place. So I think Zeus and the color yellow or the color golden make a lot of sense. The same goes for Poseidon. Why is he green? Green, it's nature, and when you think about things of the ocean, you think blue. And I understand that the creator wanted to make Hades blue, but it doesn't make sense that Poseidon is green. The color is not coloring. For me, it made more sense that Zeus was golden, Poseidon blue, and Hades purple, because Hades being the god of wealth, if you look up, the color purple was associated with royalty and wealthy people. So yeah, the point is that some of the color choices for some characters don't make sense at all to me. That being said, something that I really liked regarding the art style of Lore Olympus was the different shapes of ears. I really like how the creator drew the nymphs with pointy ears and the gods with round ears. It just made it more easy for the reader to identify who was a god and who wasn't. It was a very clever choice in my opinion. Now let's talk about the setting of the story. I really like the modern setting that the story gives us. I like how the gods have iPhones, cars, Facebook, etc. Like, it's all very comical, and it makes it easier for the person reading the story to relate in a certain type of way. I also like how the gods seem to be living in the 2000s and the humans or the mortal world seems to be living back in the Trojan War still. Another thing that I like is the sense of humor of the story. The story has a few panels that I found very funny, and not only the jokes of the story are funny, but also some of the drawings can be funny and some of the scenes are very funny as well. So the sense of humor in the story, I really appreciated it. Now let's talk about some of the changes that were made to this version of Hades and Persephone compared to the original story of Hades and Persephone. The most noticeable change that I noticed was how the creator twisted the story in such a way that she was able to hit the fact that all of the gods are related. So you don't really get the incest aspect of the story, which I really appreciate, because the original Greek mythology story is full of incest, and I really appreciate the fact that I don't have to see it at all in this story. Because if you don't know, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Hestia, and Demeter, they're all siblings. All 6 of them, child of Kronos. And then Zeus and Demeter, which are brother and sister, got together and they had Persephone. So Persephone is Hades' niece. Hades is Persephone's uncle, and there's a lot of more incest going on, so I really appreciate that we didn't have to read that at all. The other very noticeable change for me was Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades' relationship. In the story of Lore Olympus, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades go to brunch every Monday or something like that, and they're very kiki kaka with each other. You know, they're very friendly with each other. And I know that in Greek mythology they don't talk that much about their relationship between Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, but me personally, I think in my head that wouldn't be the case. I think they will be cordial with one another, and if they needed to talk about something work related, they will talk about that. But going to brunch every Monday and being best buddies, how they were portraying Lore Olympus, I just don't really see it. Now the biggest change that shocked me and I really didn't like at all was the portrayal of Persephone and Apollo's relationship. In the original Greek mythology story, the person that took advantage of Persephone was not Apollo, was Zeus, in the shape of a snake, must I say. But I understand that the creator didn't want to have Zeus to be the one to do that to Persephone, because the creator kind of wanted Zeus and Hades to have a good relationship. So I see why she made that change. But if she made that change on Zeus' character, I think it would have been better if she just left somebody took advantage of Persephone thing out of the story and just keep the story light-hearted and idealized. Also, I don't understand why she had Apollo to do that. I understand that in the original Greek mythology stories, Apollo did a few things that could be considered creepy and not morally correct, but that goes for all the gods in Greek mythology. All of them have at least one story that you can say, oh, that was kind of... And also, since we're talking about that scene where he said, I'm just taking some pictures, Like, girl, what in the Jeffrey Dahmer is going on? I don't know, it just was so uncomfortable to read. Yeah, I think I would have just left that whole thing out of the story. Now, let's talk about some of the characters from Lore Olympus. And since we're talking about the whole Persephone and Apollo relationship, let's start with Apollo. So like I said, Apollo in this Lore Olympus story sucks. And again, I know that in the original Greek mythology story, he wasn't a saint. He wasn't the most morally correct god of all of them, but here in Lore Olympus, Apollo just sucks. I hate him. I hate how he became so quickly obsessed with Persephone. The thing is that he sucked in this adaptation. He's very pushy, he's very creepy, he doesn't see the reality of the situation, and then he's talking to Persephone about, let's make it official. Like, he doesn't seem to see that she doesn't like him. You know, he's very obnoxious in this story. It was not difficult to not like him. The next character we're going to talk about is Hermes, the god of communication. He's the messenger. So when that scene came up of Persephone killing all those mortals, and then Demeter asked Hermes to keep a secret, I don't know why, but I found it so hard to believe that Hermes of all people was going to keep a secret, because like I said, he's the god of communication. That's the one thing he does. He communicates, he delivers messages. It seemed very out of character that somebody like Hermes will keep a secret, and not any secret, a secret of that magnitude. The other scene about Hermes that I was like, wait, what's going on here, was when they were at court, when Persephone was going through that trial. What was he wearing? The other character we need to talk about is Minthe. Again, like I said, I don't understand why is she not mint. And the other thing I want to say is that I hate this portrayal of Minthe. In this Lore Olympus story, Minthe is portrayed as this toxic, very bad girlfriend to Hades, and I didn't like that. But then I also didn't like how she was the toxic one, and Hades, being the god of the underworld, was portrayed as a saint. Like, really? The god of the underworld, he did nothing wrong. Minthe was the bad one. Really? And the other thing that I didn't like was that whether you like it or not, yes, whether you like it or not, Minthe was in a relationship with Hades before Persephone came along, and Hades cheated on Minthe. He had an emotional affair with Persephone, and then Persephone wanted to act all like, yeah, I did nothing wrong. Like, it was so annoying to watch. And I hate that people are like, oh no, Minthe is the bad one. She's not. She did bad things, but it's not like she's the bad one. And also in this adaptation, I feel for Minthe. I really do, because Hades gets to look like the mature one, you know, like the one that is an adult. And then Minthe gets transformed into a plant. Like, what the f? And I know some people are gonna say, yeah, but Minthe hit Hades. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I cannot believe that they had this very long relationship, and in the relationship, only Minthe was the toxic one, and Hades was the saint. I hate how Minthe is portrayed in Lore Olympus. And speaking about that, let's talk about Persephone in Lore Olympus. Okay, girl, Persephone, she gets to be too much of a goody two-shoes. You know, she gets to me very like, oh, I did nothing wrong, and it's kind of annoying. Again, she knew Hades was with Minthe, and she was flirting with him regardless. And granted, Hades was flirting back with Persephone, but it seems like the fandom only blames it on Minthe, like, oh, Minthe is the bad one. Minthe told Hades, you smell like death. Like, of course he smells like death. He's the king of the underworld. Like, I don't get it. It seems like everybody wants to blame Minthe, and Persephone and Hades get to be the good ones, when that's not the case. Another thing that I hate about Persephone in Lore Olympus is that she's portrayed almost like a little girl, with huge tits.
Girl, shut the fuck up. You thought you ate that?
And another thing, they never talk about Adonis in Lore Olympus, and I was waiting for it. They don't talk about how Persephone, depending on the version that you look up, was obsessed with Adonis, and she was fighting over Adonis with Aphrodite. Adonis being a lover that she had. They couldn't make Persephone had another boyfriend that wasn't Hades in this story, you know, because she had to be such a good girl. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like Persephone's portrayal. No. And now let's talk about Hades. Okay, for sakes. He's the king of the underworld. Can we give him some pizzazz? Can we give him a little bit of like malice? Can we give him a little bit of just something, give me something. He was portrayed like this saint that did nothing wrong and just wanted to be loved. Like, girl. And I know this Lore Olympus story is very light-hearted and very idealized, but his title is literally King of the Underworld. So I was expecting just something. Honestly, I wanted him to have a little bit of a morally gray personality. And like I said before, none of the Greek gods is a saint. All of them have at least one story that you will read it and think, wow, that's kind of wrong. And like I said before, he's portrayed like a saint with minthe. I didn't like that. There's even a panel where they said, we are dysfunctional together, meaning that he's also toxic, but we never get to see that toxicity from him because, oh, he's a saint. The other character I want to talk about is Thanatos. So Thanatos, it's supposed to be death, right? So since his death, I was expecting that character to have a little bit more of aura, a little bit more of personality, a little bit more of a mysterious vibe, a little bit more of presence. I wanted the character to be like, when he walked to a room, everybody was a little bit like, you know, just something. But he's portrayed as this goofy loser dude, to be honest. That's literally his portrayal in this Lore Olympus story. And I don't like how in Lore Olympus, Thanatos is one of those characters that is very easy to manipulate. When we all know that death is not something that you can easily escape or manipulate or even evade. The other character I want to talk about is Aphrodite. For those of you who don't know, Aphrodite is supposed to be the goddess of beauty. I don't understand why she wasn't the most beautiful one. The character design for Aphrodite was not the most beautiful one when she should have been. It seems like because the creator wanted Persephone to have all the attention, which I understand, she's the MC, but at the same time, you cannot make your MC too perfect. Like, that's just bad writing. You have your MC and then you have another character that is the goddess of beauty. The goddess of beauty should be the most beautiful one. It's just a no-brainer for me. So I didn't understand why the character design of Aphrodite wasn't the most beautiful one. If anything, it seemed like Hera had the most beautiful character design. You know, like when you hear goddess of beauty, you expect something like very regal, very wow. And she wasn't given that. And the kind of like love triangle between Persephone, Ares, and Hades was not making a lot of sense to me. I think I would have preferred it if there was a love triangle between Aphrodite, Ares, and hephaestus. Is that how you say it? And just leave Persephone and Hades out of that. So let's talk about hephaestus. And I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I'm sorry. I really like this portrayal of him because in the original Greek mythology story, he's said to be ugly, and the relationship between him and Aphrodite is very forced. Like, she didn't want to be with him, she actually wanted to be with Ares. So I really like how they changed and twisted the storyline and made it like that. I really like his character in this version. It's very interesting. And Ares is just such a fraternity dude. Like, why would he give Persephone a protein bar? The other character I want to talk about is Demeter. I really feel for her, and I really didn't like how she was portrayed as this like bad, overprotective mother. She's just a mom that was trying to look out for her kid and wanted the best for her daughter. And knowing the male gods of Greek mythology, I think anybody would have reacted the same way, you know? I think she's not appreciated enough in the fandom. Now, let's talk about some of the best episodes in my opinion, or some of the episodes that I enjoyed the most reading. Episode 206, when Persephone defeated Kronos, I think that was the episode that was the best illustrated. All the characters looked like themselves. Episode 231 was very beautiful. And the episode that I really liked because it was so funny in my opinion was episode 243 with Zeus giving birth. That's one of the episodes that you can really see the sense of humor of the creator of Lore Olympus shine. That being said though, let's talk about the finale of the series. So for me, honestly, the finale was so underwhelming. It felt very rushed. It felt like, oh, we have Apollo as a villain villain, we have Kronos as a villain, and we have Uranus as a villain. So we need to get rid of all of them almost at the same time. It felt like the creator of Lore Olympus was in a deadline. They needed to finish the series immediately. So the finale felt a little bit rushed, if I'm being honest. So overall, my final thoughts of Lore Olympus is that Lore Olympus feels very much like a collection of head canons of Greek mythology rather than a retelling of Greek mythology. Does that make sense? Also, adaptations like this one keep romanticizing the Hades and Persephone story when that story is not supposed to be cute. Like, her literal dad took advantage of her and then gave her uncle permission to take her away, to kidnap her against her will. And then her uncle tricked her into staying in the underworld. And I know that some versions of Greek mythology say that, oh no, Persephone actually wanted to go with Hades, or Persephone was actually in love with Hades. I know. But the most popular one, or the original one, is that she was abducted to the underworld, and it's called the taking of Persephone. That doesn't sound like she consented to it. And I know that this is just Greek mythology and story changes over time, but I really don't understand why this specific story of Hades and Persephone gets romanticized the most. So now let's answer the question. Is Lore Olympus really that bad? Is it really as bad as people are claiming it to be? It's not that bad. Like I said, it's a very light-hearted and idealized version of the Hades and Persephone myth. But I think that Lore Olympus shouldn't be your only source for Greek mythology stories, specifically for the Hades and Persephone story. That being said, this is a webtoon, so I feel like it fits the criteria of a webtoon, and honestly I enjoy reading most of it except for the parts that I just mentioned. So is it really that bad? No, I don't think it's awful like, oh, this is so unbearable. No, it's just a webtoon. So yeah, this was my opinion on Lore Olympus. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you liked it more than me or if you didn't enjoy it as much. If you have any recommendations for webtoons, I would read it. I like reading webtoons, so let me know if you have any good recommendations. I'll see you when I see you, okay? Bye!
A house, baby, whatever you want, I'll give you.